When you try to stay on the surface of the water, you sink. But when you try to sink, you float. And that insecurity is the result of trying to be secure. Alan Watts. If you've ever had one of those restless nights, then you'll understand how fighting against something makes it impossible. The further into the night, the more difficult it seems to sleep. As the clock on your bedside table clicks, you start to count down how many hours of rest you will have before you wake up. But you can't just make yourself go to sleep. It just doesn't work like that. Life is the same. This is what the backwards law is about. It's a concept made famous by Alan Watts, who was a prophetic writer and philosopher. He gained profound knowledge through Christianity and Buddhism, which he distilled in many of his works.
Why? Because you don't really exist as that kind of a separate ego or personality. It's just an idea based on a phony feeling. So when it comes down to it, it's shocking news for us.
And one of his most powerful concepts was the backwards law, which is the idea that the harder you try to grasp something in your hands, the more it will slip through them. Having dreams, ambitions, and goals are still the building blocks of success. But you also need to be flexible and relaxed. That means focusing your attention and effort, but making sure that you aren't being held back by your own desires. The more rigid and concrete your goals are, the larger you make them for yourself. And even if you achieve them, you might find dissatisfaction. Day to day, the tension between these goals and your current situation will make you feel anxious and frustrated and will hurt your self-confidence. British author Aldous Huxley understood this, and he said that the secret to success was combining relaxation with activity. This idea is a secret formula for unlocking your superpower.
Who and what are the enemies of freedom here in the United States?
Well, I don't think you can say who in the United States. I don't think there are any sinister persons deliberately trying to rob people of their freedom.
If you can relax into your work without thinking too much, things will come more naturally. This is when we get in the zone and achieve our best work. But how do you get there? Lucky for you, I'm here to give you the advice you've been waiting for. Hey, I'm Cedric. I've been there before and I tried just about every approach to a fulfilling life. Now that I believe I've found it, I want to share it with you. First, let's have a look at what precisely the backwards law is. It can be broken into a few different components, but the main idea is control. The idea is that chasing happiness or success will not necessarily lead to it. It's not a linear process. There are so many things that can go wrong that are outside of your control, but there are just as many things that can go right out there too. When you give up the illusion of controlling your destiny, you will open yourself to the things that could end up being the biggest factors in your success. It's normal to desire control. We usually equate this with freedom and power. And if we have financial power, then we have control over what we do, where we go, where we live, and almost everything else. That's why it's easy to become obsessed with control. But that's the wrong approach. The more you try to dictate your feelings, the more difficult you will make it for yourself. So much of our lives are determined by external factors that are totally outside of our control. This is something we all need to accept. Part of this is breaking away from the mentality that more is better. Of course, it's good to work hard and have a goal in mind, but just because you sit at your computer for longer does not mean you will get more done. In fact, the 4-day work week has had tremendous success wherever it has been trialed. In one study, productivity increased by 22% and employees reported feeling happier. That means that they got more done in less time.
The 4-day week can benefit workers, companies, and society. And it can even be a gateway for addressing climate change. But first, let's talk about the workplace. For nearly a decade, companies and governments have been experimenting with shorter hours with no cuts in pay. While the results do vary, the research shows that people are less stressed, value their jobs more, and have better lives outside of work.
This relates to Parkinson's law, which states that the time a task takes to complete will stretch into the time given. So if you have a deadline in a week, the job will spread out to a week. But if you have a one-day deadline, it will fit into that too. And this is a key part of the backwards law too. Your brain is flexible and much more capable than you might give it credit for. We are only restricted by the systems we impose on ourselves. But that doesn't mean being harder on ourselves. It means relaxing into ourselves and realizing our potential. You need to remember that the opposite of control is not chance. Using the backwards law doesn't mean that you are rolling the die every time you make a decision. In fact, you are going to feel much more secure, happy, and free. If you have a baseline confidence in what you are doing and your abilities, then it will be easier to manage the bumps along the road. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the path to success is not linear. There are going to be peaks and valleys, so you need to get used to picking yourself up and trying again. And it all starts in the mind. I've learned a lot about the backwards law through meditation. Some things are so hard to process that you need to soothe your mind. And I've certainly had a lot of trauma in my life to soothe. My father committed suicide when I was a teenager. And the worst part is that he was one of 5 others in my life to meet a similar fate. I knew that I needed to take my mental health and my own thoughts seriously, which is when I picked up meditation.
I can be that calm face for a patient who obviously is nervous and scared and worried about what the future might bring.
There are different forms of meditation. Some involve sitting quietly.
At first, it will feel like swimming against the tide. It's a common myth that meditation is about blanking the mind and keeping our thoughts silent. In fact, meditation is more about letting thoughts pass through you like flour passing through a sieve. You will notice thoughts appear in your mind, but the more important part is to acknowledge them, let them go, and not grow attached to them. Your thoughts are not you. Studies on the effects of meditation over the last 2 decades have found that the practice reduces stress, anxiety, pain, and depression.
It takes a lot of what we call post-processing to look at the data. And what post-processing means is simply lots of computer algorithms churning at the data because this just is not something that we typically would see. And so then we had to go through the entire.
Meditation can train our brain to deal with stress. Our usual response to stress is to spring into action. But meditation will slowly teach you that letting go is much more effective. The more you fight against your thoughts, the more stressed and anxious you become. This piece of knowledge can help you relinquish control. I know it's not easy. The reason why you're watching this video is probably that you want more control. It sounds counterintuitive, but trust me, just let it go, it will pay off. The bigger your goals, the longer you will probably feel unhappy having not achieved them. Anything worth doing is going to take a lot of time and hard work. Embracing your circumstances and the journey will not only make you happier, but will also make you more productive.
Mental health of employees impacts the bottom line. Happy and healthy personnel are productive at work, while poor mental health would likely result in frequent and at times extended sick leaves.
I grew up on a tiny island called Mauritius off the southeast coast of Africa. Apart from the tourism industry, there is not much there to help a young kid dream big, real big. That's the situation I found myself in, but I gave myself a chance to change my mentality and unlock my potential. When you align your lifestyle with your mentality and your vision, it is the most powerful weapon. They say that if you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life. For the most part, it's true. When I found my passion, the feeling of boredom and isolation I once felt with work faded away. You might not feel a passion for a certain field or activity. That's okay too. As long as you have an idea of where you want to be in the future, you can use that to help the feeling of work fade away. Sometimes what you want is just going to be a challenge. Putting yourself outside of your comfort zone is always rewarding. I moved to Australia for university and faced huge obstacles. The language, the culture, and the expenses made life an uphill battle.
715,000 more people expected to flood into the country over the next 2 years, 245,000 more than originally forecast, driven by a faster than expected return of international students and working holidaymakers after the borders reopened.
But it built me into the person that I am today. But don't worry though, you don't have to do something huge like moving to another country right now. Start small, take action and be consistent. Look at the tasks that you do each day as part of the process of success, rather than a binary between being successful and not successful. If you were able to become a millionaire with the click of a button, or get your dream body in a few seconds by swallowing a pill, it would be much less valuable. I guarantee that. This is a key part of what Alan Watts was trying to teach us. The things that we think are not always as they seem. In his own words, he said, 2 reasons that you don't really know what you want. Number 1, you have it. Number 2, you don't know yourself because you never can. What he means by this is that desires, anxiety, and lacking are all internal. If you really think about it long and hard enough, a fat bank account won't be the solution to what you are really chasing. Don't get me wrong, it would be great to have that kind of financial freedom, but there's a reason that 70% of lottery winners spend all that money in 5 years or less.
He came forward for the first time Friday at Resorts World Casino in Ozone Park, announcing that he's opting for the lump sum payout.
That's because it's not really earned. True success and the fruits of your success are only felt after a long process. In most long-term psychological studies, people only express true happiness when they have worked hard and achieved something.
From the tens of thousands of pages of information that we've generated on these lives.
So, instead of waiting for the day that all our problems will be solved and your dreams achieved, enjoy the stages that you will look back on and be proud of.
200 Wisconsin nursing homes will be part of the study by next year.
Nothing in life is perfect, and the sooner you realize that, the sooner you'll get a confidence boost. All of the people you're trying to emulate have made their fair share of mistakes, and you will too. Stop looking backward into the past with regret. You are here now, and that's all that matters. A billion things could have gone differently, both positively and negatively, but they didn't. Embracing your mistakes and not giving in to the urge for correction is a powerful tool. This works for your social life too. If you try to desperately fight off loneliness and surround yourself with people all the time, you will even feel more isolated when alone. You need to accept that self-building is going to be hard work. It's going to take time. It took me years to realize that having a close circle of good friends is infinitely better than having 100 fake friends. After one of my close friends committed suicide, I retreated into myself. I didn't want to interact with anyone, but I also learned some valuable lessons. If you don't allow yourself to be by yourself, then you can never build your own confidence. On the other hand, by exposing yourself to new people and new social settings, you let go of control. Over time, you will become more relaxed about socializing and get to know who you really are. You will be able to gravitate toward people who truly share your values and goals. The more you let go of this need to fit in, the more naturally you will find the right people. This is going to be the key to supercharging your success. No one can do it alone, but you can start to transform your mentality to be more in line with the backwards law. Giving up control and learning to accept the world around you is not easy, but through meditation, focusing on the day-to-day goals and attracting the right social circle, it will become more achievable. The backwards law won't rocket you to success overnight, but it is an approach that will pay dividends in the long run. I'm the living proof. The first step is to give up control, or at least giving up the idea of control as the most important part of success. Meditation can help you get into the right headspace for this. Then, and only then, you should start to think about what you really want. What kind of success do you want? What kind of freedom? Now, acknowledge that the path to success is just as important as the success itself. Finally, put it all into practice. Stop chasing social situations that are not fulfilling. Instead, open yourself to more meaningful interactions, even if it's scary. If you put all that together, then you will be the best version of yourself, ready to take opportunities as they come. And trust me, they always come. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below to join me on this journey to unlock our full potential.